So I am here facilitating the last panel between you and a lovely reception out in the courtyard. But I think this is probably one of the most interesting parts of the day, at least it is for me, because I deal with the research that each of these panelists are going to be talking about all the time. In 2006, the Western chapter of ISA incorporated our research committee into what's now known as the Briton Fund, and it's actually one of the science and research and education foundations here in the Western states. So many of the panelists have either worked with or are working on current projects from the Briton Fund or have funded them. So it's pretty cool that by happenstance I happen to be their moderator today. I'll tell you real quick who our panel is, and then we're just going to jump into it because we are going a little short of time. You're first going to hear from Miranda Hutten. She's the Urban and Community Forestry Manager for the Pacific Southwest region. We're sitting in her backyard right now for a wonderful project that she's working on, and she is absolutely fantastic about funding the programs for California Relief, California Urban Forest Council, the Briton Fund, and the Western chapter. So she is like an amazing partner. Next to her is, you guys are out of order. It's okay, I'm on it. Next is someone I just met this morning, but actually has been counting trees on a project of the Briton Fund for the last week. That's Erika Teach. She's with the USDA Forest Service and Davey Resource Group. She's been working on the LA tree survey, but today she's going to talk about iTree. Next to her is my buddy Jeff Reimer. He is from the other Cal Poly, if you're from Southern California. That is Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, because we are Cal Poly Pomona people here. So Jeff does technical support for Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and he's also been involved in the UFI website forever, I think since inception. It's really an amazing resource. He's also on the Central Coast Urban Forest Council. He's going to talk to us about the 2016 tree survey. State of the Urban Forest for California. Thank you. And then next to him is Andy Trotter, who is like a brother to me. We've worked together for 35 years. Andy is today going to be talking about a project with trees and birds that he is working on with a group of wildlife biologists, arborists, horticulturalists, working for a best management practice to make sure that we're all on the same page. And last is Igor Lacan, and he is the UC Extension advisor. And his focus of his work is on trees and water, but he's actually working on a current Briton Fund project on wood decay and tree failure. So I'm stoked that I'm still here and I get to hear all these guys, even though we're a little late. I'm going to turn it over to them. I'll be right there to give you the cuts off C's. Okay, so here's Miranda.
All right, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And as people know me, I do talk very fast, so I promise to keep in time. So as was mentioned, I am the Urban and Community Forestry Program Manager in the Pacific Southwest region of the U.S. Forest Service. But today I'm wearing my other hat, which is working as a team and a partner for the Los Angeles Center for Urban Natural Resource Sustainability, or as I like to fondly shorten it, the LA Urban Center. Aha. All right, time for a little hand movements. How many people are familiar with the LA Urban Center in LA? Great, there's some people that haven't, because guess what, you're going to learn about it. It is a research destination. First of all, it's a partnership between the City of LA and the U.S. Forest Service to create a research information hub where we collaborate with public and private entities as well as academic-based institutions to communicate information on urban natural resources and social ecological systems to inform decision makers and our partners for a more sustainable LA. I won't get into the details about how it works and how the executive committee comes together, but know that we cover a lot of different areas that are important to LA and important to you as urban tree stewards. Urban natural resources sustainability, tree stewardship, health and longevity, air and water quality, green infrastructure and urban planning, and climate change, just to name a few. How does this work get delivered on the ground? I'm going to give you a few examples of what we've been doing and then invite you to come on Thursday to learn a little bit more. So one example is we have a yearly competitive graduate fellowship program where we look to hit some of these hot topics that I just mentioned and research that is happening here in LA. There's a lot of different flavors of how this has come about together. I'm going to name a few. We have research going on citizen science change and environmental attitudes, quantifying user use on the San Gabriel River, quantifying plant and water use in light of drought tolerance, analyzing the impact of shot hole borers on our LA urban forest, and better understanding the relationship of particulate matter in street trees. Maybe I've piqued some of your interest. That covers a lot of different topics. And in fact, most of these topics have already been completed by our fellows and are available online at our yearly fellowship seminar where they present their topics and information. We also have a yearly competitive RFP topic that is a direct reflection of input that we get from partners just like you. And we do this on an annual basis, and guess what? Tomorrow we're doing that exact event where we're going to be having a facilitated discussion and talk about these different items. We have 3 competitive RFPs that we have done thus far. 2 are in progress. One is done with the tree people, and where we're looking at environmental justice communities and best practices for tree stewardship in those communities as a toolkit for other communities in LA and the rest of California. We have a project trying to understand drought from a historic perspective using satellite data dating back to 1985 to today. And of course, I'm sure Greg's going to talk about it at some point, but I'll just hint that one of the projects we're also supporting is work by Greg, Natalie Van Dorn from the U.S. Forest Service as well, Allison Berry, and Jim Downer for understanding trees fit for our climate into the future. And in fact, there's a number one of those sites all over throughout LA that are in your backyard. One of the areas I'm particularly proud that the LA Urban Center has been moving into is, of course, working and connecting with our urban public partners and youth to improve sustainability of our urban environment, whether it's addressing hot topic issues for our partners here in LA, doing tree plantings, or participating in National Public Lands Day events. We're looking for new opportunities to address and create tech transfer projects to address our communities and our public. And in particular, what was mentioned and hinted earlier is we have been engaging in a partnership with the Western National Parks Association and the National Park Service to create and inform interpretive information right here in El Pueblo. So as you step out this afternoon, take a look over to your right. That's going to be the new interpretive center, where over 400,000 fourth graders come through each year. So it's a really great opportunity to take new cutting-edge research about LA and interpret it for a wide range of audiences. Okay, so I told you I was going to be quick. These are supposed to be teasers, right? I'm trying to get you interested to stay for Thursday and to participate on Thursday's session. In the back, so everybody kind of crane your head back to the back over there, thank you. You'll see that there's a number of posters, and each one has a little blackboard in it with a topic area. Those topics should look familiar. They're based off of the topics and highlights that you felt was important to have speakers at your conference for. They also mirror, coincidentally, highlight topics in our strategic plan. Around each one of those boards is key identified words that we've picked out from our strategic plan that we think are important to you all to think about. Underneath each one of the topics is all the work we've been doing in that area since we started 3 years ago to improve research and information being disseminated out to California and the LA metropolitan area. However, you will notice there's some clouds missing. And no, it wasn't because I was tired. It's because we're looking for input from you. So as you were listening to these sessions today and thinking about tomorrow, please take a sticky note, which I'll be handing out and putting out around all of those different posters, and add your thoughts and different ideas that you think are key information needs that we need to target for the next year. Because we listen to you, and all of our projects are a direct reflection of the information needs from our partners. And with that, if you cannot, for some reason, make our Thursday session, but I hope you can, suggest hunt down this guy right over here because he is our new Urban Forest, LA Urban Center Coordinator Detailer. Oh, he's hiding in the back over there. He was introduced earlier this morning. He is the one who's going to make this happen. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And Chris Fabro, did I not? Oh, my apologies. Chris Fabro. And so if you have a chance to introduce yourself to him, please do. And again, we have a contact information. We have contact information over at brochures over there as well too. And of course, I will take any kind of comments on that on the LA Urban Center as well. So thank you.
Okay, looks like I'm next. Tree Care for Birds and Other Wildlife is a project that got started just a little over a year ago. I work for a company that's a contractor that works for municipalities throughout California and Arizona. And I was approached by a gal who is an Audubon member from a local chapter in Orange County and said, hey, Andy, I know you guys work with the County of Orange Parks and wondering if maybe we could work cooperatively on habitat for cavity nesters. And her, Jillian Martin, a wonderful gal and an interesting name being a birder, said, bluebirds and cavity nesters are woodpeckers are keystone species in our wildlife in our urban areas and forested areas, and the habitat for them's being lost like crazy. And I thought, wow, that's awesome. I love birds. I enjoy birds in my own yard. I really enjoy the birds making noise out my window in the mornings and things like that. I also thought, this is easy. I like that urban wood thing, and we'll mill up all kinds of urban trees, and we'll make bluebird boxes, and we'll take care of this one quickly. Well, it turned out it wasn't so simple. And one challenge that we've been running into in our industry is, and it turns out we all have initiatives that we do for the various groups that we work on, and we've all heard about Audubon, and one of their initiatives is actually to develop tree trimming moratoriums, and it turns out that these are for 6 months of the year. Okay, so I'm working with cities, and we're trying to provide the services for these cities, and a lot of them are like South Orange County, or even the County of LA has this standard right now as a policy. It's not an ordinance, but it's a policy. And it really makes it very difficult for us to do our job. And it seems real arbitrary that we shall not prune trees from, March or April through the end of September. I mean, that's pretty hard on our industry. And so I explained that to Jillian. She got it. She understood if we're going to have good arborists that are skilled, we need to have accommodations. Maybe as arborists we can learn some of the techniques and processes that we should be looking for to protect birds along the way. And it's been we decided to partner up on this whole subject. So she agreed that we could probably come together and maybe arborists could help provide the habitat, provide the protection that birds need, and at the same time we can learn from each other. So we sat down and started, like I say, a year ago. We actually got a little funding from CAL FIRE, thank you, John, and we hired a facilitator who's Ann Fagey, retired from the Forest Service down in San Diego and does a lot of natural education programs. And my goal today is just to get everybody to, where do I click this thing or what? Just to let you know that this process is out there going on. We now have a real rudimentary website called treecareforbirds.com where we're kind of housing our work that we're doing. We did pull together over 50 people that are arborists, consulting arborists, municipal arborists, biologists, fish and game people, federal, state level, Audubon people. We've now gotten many chapters from Chico to San Diego, Audubon chapters that have joined in on this effort. And the effort is really just to sit down at the table and talk together. We don't have a product or result yet. We're working on that, and we hope to have that ready to share by the end of this calendar year. And it's been a neat process, so we're looking for people to go to treecareforbirds.com, see what we're doing. We've developed a framework. We've done a lot of environmental scan and research to see what's already out there in this subject, and it turns out it's relatively limited in urban areas, how to protect birds and what BMPs should be. We also even investigated with the ISA to find out if there was anything in the process, thinking, I really enjoy the ISA BMPs on the different tasks that we do for our industry, and it turns out there is interest, and so we investigated that, but it turned out we felt in California, for right now, we weren't going to go to a national standard that we were trying to develop. We talked to the ISA, and they said whatever they develop has to be applicable in a worldwide forum. And in California, we certainly have more regulatory demands that we need to adhere to, and so we wanted to keep those standards in place and not water them down. So right now, our group's focus is on California, looking to develop these BMPs. We've developed a framework and an outline and a little bit of some strategies. We came up with key action items, and actually we're about halfway through this list of things that we're working on in order to get this whole process put together. Currently, like I said, we've put together an outline and content of what we think the BMPs should have, and we have a team of people writing out the basic language for that BMP. And then in a parallel effort, we have committees working on some of the next phase as we finish the first phase of writing the actual BMP. 2017, our goal is going to be to outreach to the public at large, to the arborist industry, advocate for arborists to become wildlife aware and learn and get educated on this. At the end of the day, we look for this BMP to be something that agencies can adopt or modify to fit their conditions and adopt, but as an alternative to tree trimming moratoriums. Other ways that arborists are trained with information can do the right thing to protect, birds. Go inspect the tree before you go into it. It surprises me how many really well-qualified, really well-intended arborists completely overlook this. And I know a personal story that I ran into at an industry event, and it was a big industry event, tree climbing event, and I'm over on the side cooking because I like to feed people, and I hear this hawk just screeching and going crazy, and finally I had to go investigate, and sure enough, there's red-tailed hawks circling around these trees, and they were trees that were intended to be used for the climbing. People knew they were there, but they didn't think of what are the impacts of that. And it's something we have to get. When a hawk is out there screeching, it's saying something. If there's a hole in a tree, we should look a little further. And that's what the BMPs are going to hopefully help us direct towards. So phase one of our project, we're developing the framework. We're writing out the BMPs. Phase two, what we're hoping to do in 2017, will be to advocate for it, educate the industry, educate those that hire arborists. And hopefully what we do is we define for customers, or whether it's public agencies or homeowners, that they should have qualified, knowledgeable people that they're hiring. Maybe have a wildlife aware certification of some form. The framework kind of gives us a little bit of a key of what to do, where and when, depending on the seasons and the susceptibility of the different habitats. We know that riparian areas are some of the highest value habitats, and in a more urbanized area, it's obviously a different level of stress, or the birds are obviously more adapted to the interactivity of people and such. And that's something for the arborist to use in decision making, what to do, where and when. A little bit more of the decision key, the flow chart, and this will also have language that parallels with it. So we thank you. We ask you all to consider the birds and other wildlife out there, and we hope that you'll go check out treecareforbirds.com. We are open. We're very inclusive. We are having ongoing meetings. You can tap in and communicate with us there and come join us. Our next meeting will be September 1st at West Coast Arborist office in Anaheim, but it's also available to go to meeting format from wherever you're at. So we invite participation, viewpoints, inclusive to everybody out there. Thank you very much.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for sticking around. So I'm excited to be here to talk about iTree. These are tools I've become familiar with over the last few years. So the tools are utilized to manage and build a resilient urban forest. It is a software suite that allows you to assess your community forest. It then describes the benefits that that forest provides. How many of you folks out here have heard of iTree? Yes. How many of you guys have used either Eco or Landscape? All right. Okay, well, those are the two tools I'm going to highlight today, give you a little bit of information about Landscape is a new tool, and Eco, we just came out with a new version. So these tools are backed by 25 years of research. They are free, accessible online. Some you download, some you use through a web browser. Team of researchers, practitioners, urban foresters that supports this, maintain it, create new tools. I am there on the support end, supporting you guys when you want to use these tools. When you contact iTree info, I'm one of those people that answers your questions. It was originally launched in 2006. 10 years on, we have many tools. We have many tools that can be used for a variety of projects, a variety of scales of projects, depending on your goals. So we've got about 36,000 users. Used locally. It used to be used just locally by a few urban foresters, and now it's used internationally. Helps communities of all sizes to strengthen their urban forest management and advocacy efforts by quantifying the environmental services your forest is providing. You can then use that information to create new opportunities and to drive change. These tools allow you to discuss urban forest management strategies with your community members, government officials. It really gives you a credible way to show that trees are an integral part of our infrastructure. It's really, you can take this information and use it in a variety of ways. It's really as simple as a tree tag down there in the bottom corner. You can just highlight what the value of that tree is. You can have an event in a park that you've done an assessment at, and bring your community out to talk about those tools. Sorry, Miranda. You can use it to create a more comprehensive urban forest report and disseminate that information to government officials. You can do what Milwaukee did, talking about the emerald ash borer when it was headed towards their city and they did an assessment. They disseminated that information in a variety of ways. It triggered more money going into the urban forestry department, and they've been treating of select ash trees in their community in order to save them. So iTree Landscape is one of our newest tools. It is an online tool. It allows you to explore geospatial data for an area of interest. It makes use of several data sets to provide local tree canopy and land cover information, tree benefits, and to help you prioritize planting based on user-defined criteria. So we're using US Census data, county boundaries, state boundaries, NLCD land cover to prioritize where you want to plant your trees. When I was listening to David Haas talk about the CAL FIRE grants, this tool would be something that you could utilize in creating your proposal, I think. So you can compare canopy and land cover across counties, census blocks, watersheds, and more. You can see the carbon, air pollution, hydrologic benefits provided by the trees based on the tree cover in the selected regions. So once all of that is done, you can then prioritize where to plant trees within those selected regions based on up to 5 categories, such as minority population density and percent of population below the poverty line. So iTree Eco, this is probably our most popular program. It is really scalable. You can use it for a park. You can use it to compare, say, what trees are on different school campuses. You can use it to evaluate your whole city. It utilizes on-the-ground tree measurements, plot variables, as well as local weather and pollution data to provide users with comprehensive reports that can be used for a wide range of management decisions. So we just came out with a new version of Eco. And these are some of the new features. If you guys have looked at the prior versions of Eco, the interface was a little plain, and now it's a little jazzed up. It's a bit more intuitive. It's quite user-friendly. We have flexible data collection options that I'll talk about in a minute. There are some new reports and then some expanded reports. We have a new feature called Forecast, which I'm going to talk about in a minute too, which is an exciting management tool. Our inventory importing process has become simplified. So if you are out there and you're managing a municipal forest and you're taking your street tree inventory and you want to import it into a tool and get all of those reports that Eco provides, you can do it now through Eco. Now we are also adapted for use in the United Kingdom as well as Australia and Canada. So international users very interested in this project or in this tool. So one of the first things you do when you're coming upon an assessment, you want to plan your assessment is what are your goals and what is the area that I'm going to be doing this in? What are the goals for that area? And if you're going to be doing a larger project, say you want to look at a city or a county, you really want to do a plot-based sample project. And if you're going to do a smaller, say again, you want to compare a couple parks or you want to look at a golf course, typically those are done with an inventory project, so you're just taking the tree data. And then really people are looking at the specific tree data in those instances. Data options. Okay, this is great. So now with the new version of Eco, if you're doing an inventory, you can see over there on the left-hand side, the minimum that you need is species and DBH. And if you're doing a sample plot-based project, you're going to need to do those 4. And then, of course, we have all the other data inputs that you can do. Those are optional. They're additional, depending on what your goals are. Of course, the more data variables that you provide, you're going to get a little bit more accuracy with your results. We've got some new charts and new tables within the Eco 6. This is our structural and composition. That's a summary of the results that you're going to get. And then, of course, the function. What's the pollution removal? What are the human health impacts? What carbon's being sequestered? Once you get all this, it is really up to you what you're going to do with it. How are you going to communicate? What change do you want to make? Who do you need to bring this information to get those changes made? Or are you just going to use it for management? Forecast is one of those tools that you can use for management. You can put in, I'm going to plant X amount of trees over X amount of time. What is my forest going to look like? You're going to get reports on that. I predict that these amount of trees are going to die annually. You're going to then run it. You're going to get reports. If you have a pest that's coming, you can run that and see what it's going to look like when that pest hits, so you can plan accordingly. A few other management information that we get, there is within Eco, if you choose to do it, there's a pest risk analysis depending on the species that make up your urban forest. There are a couple now user-defined fields that can be used for management. When you set up your project, you can go ahead and define those. And then you can also take advantage of the cost-benefit analysis that's in there. And of course, that's inputting dollar values in order for ECO to run the numbers. So all of this information, and a whole lot more, can be found on our website. There's a lot of support. There's videos. There's all the tools are up there, all the examples, stories, examples of other people's reports and what they've been doing with it. And then if you ever have any questions, info@itreetools.org, and then my email is up there as well. Thank you.
Hi, so my name is Jeff Reimer. I'm from Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, and Cal Poly. Urban Forest Ecosystems Institute, and I'd just like to share with you before I start on this talk, I've been involved with California Big Trees with Dr. Matt Ritter, also work with Dr. Rich Thompson. He's the director of the Urban Forest Ecosystems Institute, and then also have been involved with Select Tree, a tree selection guide for California for some years. And so today, though, I've been asked to talk to you about the State of the Urban Forestry Survey for 2016. And this is a survey that we're going to do this year. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about it here. Let's see, so what is it? There might be some misperceptions about it, but it's a periodic survey of the state, and it's funded by CAL FIRE, and it's a desire to get a snapshot of where urban forestry management is currently in the state. And there have been 4 previous surveys, as you can see, and it's a survey to gather the organizational structure, the management of urban forests in cities and counties. So what kind of questions are asked? And I thought maybe the first one, so I looked at previous surveys, and there's been reports done and some trend analysis. And the first one that would catch everybody's attention, and it's not surprising to anybody, is that small trees are being selected and planted more often than large trees. And so they're being favored basically because of their economics, but we know even though they are preferred for their economics, sometimes they are preferred or they are appropriate for different situations. We understand that we want larger trees. The benefits of larger trees is well documented. Other types of information that the trends have shown is where urban forestry is housed within these municipalities. Are they in, and they tend to be in public works or parks and rec, housed within those. Where does the funding come from? And this is telling, but it's basically from the general fund. So they're pretty much under stress. Percent of budgets, the budget per resident for trees for the city over the years. The first year should be 1988. And it looks like the funding's gone up, but if you hold the dollars constant, the funding has really gone down per capita. Some of the needs that municipalities have indicated, and it isn't surprising that increased funding is needed, better care for trees, and some of the other needs that they disclose there. So I think I've won here. This is the summary of some of the trends that I thought that I would point out from previous surveys. And so we're going to try and capture what 2016 will say of the state of the urban forestry in California. So what do we need? So previous surveys were done via telephone or via mail, not email, mail. And So our challenges today, and who knows, the urban forester for all the cities in California or the counties, who's in charge and who can answer these questions that are budget centered, inventory centered, and resources centered, HR type questions. And so we're trying to locate those people. And so if you know an urban forester in a city or a county and can identify those people, we've got a few that we know for sure. I don't think the same person is there from 1988, or maybe so. Anyways, we'd love to hear. If you know, you can just shoot me an email and help us get the survey out to the right people. We're hoping to get a good result back and to see what the trend. It should be very interesting. The last survey was 2003, so it's been a while. So we're looking forward to doing this. That's it. Thank you.
How'd you know it was me?
College graduate.
College graduate. Good point. Good point.
Oh, it's got a virus.
Yeah. Despicable, yeah. The minions are coming. Yeah. Okay, so last and definitely least, I will briefly cover our fabulous research project on everyone's favorite topic, tree failure, which is exactly what it sounds like when trees fall down. And just a quick note of thanks to the people who are actually doing the work, Mantegra Belotto's lab, Larry and Catherine, and Doug Schmidt, and of course to the Briton Fund that's funding it, and to you all for sticking around an hour after the elapsed times. Let's roll. The idea here is to figure out what species of fungi are present in failed wood. And by failed, we mean exactly that, wood that broke off a tree that broke, with the immediate goal of relating the fungi to the breakage or to the failure. And the ultimate goal is to enable arborists like yourselves to look at a standing tree that you're concerned about. So a standing tree maybe like that, take a small sample of the wood, send it to the lab, and then get a report back saying, here's the fungi we found, and by the way, here is that report associating those fungi with previous failures. So this is the first step in a sort of longer-term idea. And the idea is to really enable better risk assessment. And we do it by having a fabulous website, which really doesn't have much more than that on there, but that's fine. And this is what we've asked arborists to do, and if you contact me, you get one of these fabulous sampling packets, which just contains a bunch of envelopes, and you take a small sample of the failed wood, and you fill out the monstrous form, and then you send those out. So let me just walk you through it. There are two elements to it. You are filling out the form. Yeah, well, yes, it looks inviting, but the thing is, you're only filling out 1/3 of it. So you select which kind of failure you have, so it's only 1/3. It only takes about 3 minutes to fill out, really. Nobody believes me, but it's true. And that data gets entered into the California Tree Failure Report Program database and the International Tree Failure Database, or at least it will be as soon as that thing is back online. But our database is still online, and just a reminder, it's an incredible resource. It has almost 6,000 records of tree failures. It is by far the biggest such database that's currently accessible. And just a quick shout out, as we would say, or at least those of us from the 90s, to the people who are the Tree Failure Report Program, Catherine Jones and Dr. Larry Costello. They started it all, and Catherine is still managing the database. So if you need data, contact Catherine. But so that's where your data goes. Whereas your sample, you've taken a small sample from right there where the wood failed, and you've sent it to the Garbolotto lab. And this is what they do with it. And if you understand that title, you are either a biologist or you need to get out more. But basically, they do a DNA fingerprint, and they can detect one of these 21 species of fungi. So it could be that you have something that's not on the list, and then they have a universal primer, again, for those of you who are fluent in genetics. They do have a universal primer that will just light up if there is a fungus in there, but we don't have it on the list. So your results can say you don't have anything, you have one of those 21 species, or you have something else. So let's just briefly look at the results. We've sent out our 300 sample packets, we've received 67, and we've processed about 47. 2/3 broadleaf samples, 1/3 conifer samples, sounds about right. Quarter oaks, some ukes, Monterey cypresses, pines, redwoods, and a bunch of other. We had 18 other taxa. So not too bad. This is actually not too bad. When you compare it to the overall tree failure database, these percentages are roughly the same. So it looks like people who are sending us samples are sending them at roughly the same proportion as the records in the database, which is good, which is good. But if you don't see your favorite tree on here, send us a sample. Can the sample be old? Fair question. Probably not more than a few weeks old, just because things land on that exposed wood, so then you end up detecting stuff that wasn't there. Where did the failure occur? Mostly branches and trunks, a few root failures. And then this is the sort of most interesting bit, or at least maybe I need to get out more, but to me this is the most interesting bit. On the horizontal axis is the number of samples, and on the vertical axis is the number of fungi found in a sample. So if you say, well, how many of your samples had no fungi? 1. The rest, all of the rest, had at least one fungus, but in fact the most common number of fungi in a sample were 4. And we had one California sycamore that had 7 fungi in it, and it was a champion for a long, long time from Santa Cruz area, and then it got dethroned by, I think this was a plum or something, one purple plum that had 10, hello San Jose, 10 fungi in that single piece of failed wood. Yeah, go San Jose. So, if you think you can do better, send us a sample. But the bottom line is fungi really do seem to be quite ubiquitous in these failed wood samples. I'm not going to bore you with the actual fungal species. It's a little bit surprising, but not entirely. And so let's just get to the so what. Well, one reason we want to consider failure is that failure costs are rising. They've gone from the median of about $2,500 in the early 90s to about $3,500 now. And this is what's reported. People report that on the form. So this is what you guys have reported. And they go all the way up to 100,000. And of course, I'm not talking about fatalities and other tragedies. This is just the costs that are associated with the failures. And this, of course, drives people's perceptions of trees. And I don't need to preach to the choir, I don't think, about how not everybody feels the way we do about large trees. And this is why we're trying to better understand what kinds of things are involved in tree failure. And in the end, this project is meant to contribute to this idea of managing failures. Yeah, we'd like to prevent failures, but I think that will remain elusive for some time. But we certainly can manage our risks, and this goes in together with inventories, inspections, urban forest management plans, and we would like to add to this fungal component. So that, I think, is it. The only reason I think this is, well, one of the reasons I think this is interesting to you, most of us in the room, I think, are concerned with tree planting. But when you look at the overall management of urban forests, you get something I call the Ouija board of urban forestry, where you have these different factors kind of pushing things in somewhat different directions. And hopefully the urban forest you end up with is something you'd like, but certainly liability is one of those factors pushing for, as Jeff just pointed out, smaller trees. So again, I think if we can understand factors that contribute to tree failure, we can make that little puck move in a slightly more controlled direction, get us to a larger and better urban forest. So that is it. Thank you very much. Is there a burning question? Because I think there. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't look like anyone's running for the door, so we can take a couple minutes for questions. I think we've got some of our foremost researchers and projects up here. It certainly is a valuable use of 5 minutes for some questions.
So I was just wondering, how are you testing kind of healthy tree? Are you testing healthy trees to check against the fungus to kind of?
Were you on the grant review panel? Because that was one of the questions. Yeah, so we have control samples. I'm not showing you the whole thing because this project's still ongoing, but yes, we have control samples from trees that are removed for other reasons, so trees that are not suspected of having a problem. Take a sample of that wood. So if you want to send me a sample of sound wood, go right ahead. You don't have to fill out the form. Just tell me what species it is, put it as a control sample, and the lab never gets to know that. So just between you and me.
Hi, this is for Andy. Thank you so much for actually bringing wildlife into the whole urban forest picture. I think it's been missing a long time, and everything that you're doing is really important for that. It was wildlife that actually brought me into urban forestry in the first place. So thank you.
This is for the iTree software. Are there any high schools that you know that have implemented this into their curriculum as part of a project? Or I'm an ex-high school science teacher that I would love to do some comparison analysis in a school district up in Roseville and get this into the high school classrooms. And if there's somebody that's already done it, that would be awesome. But if not, I'll still give it a try.
So as of right now, I do not know of any high schools. Universities definitely. We do have a curriculum for elementary school students that has been created, and I'm fairly certain that one is being created for other grade levels as well. So if you're looking for curriculum, that will be coming. Let's maybe have a quick chat in a minute, and we can talk a little bit further about that and what your needs are and what your thoughts are. Yeah.
Any other questions for any of our panelists? Haiti?
I have a question for Jeff regarding the tree survey, and the last one was done in 2003. And I'm just wondering if you'll see, it'll be interesting to learn, if you see that people are planting larger trees again now, in part because they're interested in carbon sequestration and that.
Right, I think that's what we're hoping to see. You're right, and I think it's very telling, and we're looking forward to getting those responses back. Contacting the right people will be very important, so we need your help there. But I think we will see some trend changes since 2003, and so we're excited to see that. But smaller trees was the last trend. I think we all agree that that was happening, right? And I don't know how much that's changed, so that's why studies like these are important.
Great, thanks. Anything else? Oh, go ahead, Oscar.
So sometimes when I prune trees and there's no hazard of something falling on anyone, I leave dead wood behind so the woodpeckers could have some food. But what are the species that are protected, or are they all protected?
Just about everything's protected. So you got your Migratory Bird Act that protects just about everything. In addition to that, in California, we have cruelty to animal type laws. So there's like English sparrow and starling. Birders are better than I, that aren't protected. However, under various California law, you could still be subject to violation and fines. So everything's pretty much protected. And from my business, from the sensitivity and the public relations, it can be an opossum, it can be, other mammals. in addition to birds. And it's important for our industry to have a good image. And that's one of the main reasons. So.
My experience has been with our clients. I was working on a hedge, and we left part of it because there was a nest in there with some eggs, and we talked to our client, told her exactly what had happened, and she was perfectly happy with it, and she actually respected us a little more than if we would have completed the hedge and taken out the nest. The question was, if I see a nest in a tree, can I work around it, or what's the deal there?
It's open to a lot of interpretation. Mostly you're not allowed to disturb their breeding habits. So where or how you disturb is a gray area. And it's interpreted, and the laws are enforced not very uniformly. So that leaves us in more question. But for right now, you're not allowed to interrupt their breeding habits. So if your being there scares them away, that's a problem. Definitely a lot of arborists want to know, well, what techniques can I do in order to safely, protect the bird and still do my job? And that's going to be an ongoing discussion. We're not going to solve that very quickly, but the law says you shall not disturb their breeding habits.
Andy, are you working a lot with the Wildlife Federation on this topic?
State Fish and Game and federal,
Okay.
we're definitely getting, and also avian biologists for our inputs, yes.
Okay.
Absolutely, they're on the committee. You can go to the website, and you can also see the people that are participating and endorsing, as well as their backgrounds.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I'm sorry I wasn't here for your lecture, but I do have a question, and it is in regard to disturbance. Could disturbance also be sound, and if that is so, what decibels?
I cannot tell you where those boundaries are. That's the gray area, quite frankly. And in my observations is it must vary based on species. Obviously, a lot of species encroach into urbanized areas, are very compatible. You see the sparrows building nests in the eaves of your home, and other species, just your presence in the area can shoo them away, and then they're not going to come back to their young. I think there's a lot of possible research opportunities in that area. And how we react to it in the future. But for right now, it's not very well defined. That's one of the big challenges.
Thank you.
So I'm going to call it macaroni with that, you guys. I think this is a very informative panel. All of these projects and all of these, they're amazing. I think it shows us what we can look forward to next year and the year to come. So thank you all very much. Let's thank them.